The festivities have kicked off and everything has begun in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59. And our guy, Matt Derrick, is on the ground in NOLA. What does it all mean? And are they ready for this ball game that's coming up today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Folks, we're brought to you by Prize Picks today. You can go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Now, Matt might have time to do that at some point, but it's not tonight. So with everything kicked off and the craziness that is media night and now the follow-ups where we actually get to hear from coaches, et cetera, Andy Reid took the podium today. We're going to go through and give you an overview, what it looks like a couple days out. What's the best scenario for this championship? How do they get it done? If everything goes according to plan, that's coming up later in the show, along with Matt's prediction. Before that, we want to get to what Andy Reid is not telling us. Where do we have to fill in the gaps, and what might it look like? That's coming up next. And we start with what is, I think, maybe the headline for once is what it should be, and that is everybody is good to go. There are no injuries reported. The only guy that has even been on the list here in the last few days is still on IR. So Sky Moore was not expected to be in this game. I don't know if they want to bump anybody around right now. So this is a fully planned out. The plan came to fruition all through the season. They are 100% ready to go right now. How much of an advantage is that, Matt?
Oh, I think it's a huge advantage, especially if you look at the injuries that the Eagles have been dealing with, especially on their interior offensive line, linebacker level. I mean, there's a couple of key spots where the Eagles are really struggling with injury. Chiefs are completely healthy. I would expect, Nicole Hardman, like you mentioned, is on injured reserve. I don't expect him to be activated for the Super Bowl, but he's here participating. He's able to help out part the scout team, so that's great. Only thing I'll watch for on the injury reports they start on Wednesday is going to be, are there any players that they're limiting or holding back a little bit because of the facilities over at Tulane? If they're working on a turf that they're not favorable with, is that something that, Jawan Taylor with his knee, do they want to back off of him a little bit? Those are really the only things. If anything else pops up, that would be a concern. But right now, Ryan, this team is healthy, 100% ready to go.
Well, you bring up my second topic, and folks, Matt is live with us from some hidden ballroom in some hotel deep in the heart of New Orleans. So you won't get any clues as to which one it is. But that field surface, a lot of talk about what happened last time with the Eagles and playing on this turf. We've seen the Chiefs be obviously healthy now, but playing on turf is not something that they really relish. They've gone out of their way, especially with turf issues in some of the international venues that they've gone to. Very particular about the turf. How does it look to you? What's the talk about the playing surface for this ballgame?
Really, there hasn't been a lot of talk about the playing surface, and and for the Chiefs, in particular, their issues are with their own facility. They don't like that it's in the indoor. It is probably worse than even a lot of the fields that they've complained about and talked about in other facilities. Superdome doesn't have a terrible reputation, so and obviously everything's gone out to try and make this the best possible scenario. I thought it was notable even for opening night when last year in Vegas. Opening night was on the field. You were actually out on the field. Now, it was carpet. It wasn't the turf. It wasn't the actual field that you were on, but you were actually within the 100-yard markings of the field. Last night, no, everything for opening night was done on the sidelines. Kind of makes me think that maybe there was a better location that could have done it since they had a 100 football field that they weren't touching. Other than the stage, that was really the only thing that was out there. And so I think that at least they're taking precautions to try and make sure that turf is 100% in its best possible condition. Obviously, everything's already been painted, all done. That's ahead of what it would be like for Kansas City if they were painting the field, getting ready for a game. So it's a Super Bowl. Everything's done in advance. And, there's not going to be any skunky grass, anything like that in the Superdome this year.
I'm glad to hear that. And it's good to pull out all the stops so that everybody can just get down to focusing on the task at hand. And there's a lot of storylines in this team, obviously, with Patrick and his quest to be the best ever, with Travis Kelce and his similar quest. There's two possible GOATs at their positions playing in this ballgame, as well as the three-peat that is just historical across the go. That's all for guys that have been in this. And we've been talking about it all week, and we probably will the rest of the week. But for the sideways, for the guys that haven't been here, that are jumping onto this train after the foundation's been laid and the wheels are already turning, and they just got to hook on and contribute. When you talk to DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown and Kareem Hunt, whose redemption story is probably the best of this group, what's the common feeling for all of them? Is it, hey, I finally got to this game, or is it another week of business before they will actually celebrate?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, there's different groups of players. There's the young guys, and then there's the veterans that are here for the first time. And they're distinctly two different. I mean, are they hungry? Yes. But, what's the term I would really use to describe like the DeAndre Hopkins and the Kareem Hunts about? I think determined is really the key. I mean, there's the younger guys who are here for the first time. You're seeing them embrace it. I think you're seeing DeAndre and Kareem embrace it in a different way in Hollywood too. I mean, they're enjoying it, but there's also an edge to it. There's certainly this isn't finished yet. The goal wasn't to get to the Super Bowl. The goal to win a Super Bowl. And, for them, I mean, you get it. I mean, the reality of time is staring at them. This might be their one and only chance. And, for a younger player, they might be thinking, hey, this is great. Would love to win it, but I might be able to do this again down the road. I mean, their teammates reminding them that that's not always the case. Might be your one and only chance. Grab it. But you see that much more, I think, in those veterans. I mean, like I said, I kind of feel like it's almost like an old aging lion out for the hunt. These might not be the fastest anymore, but they are determined. They want to bring down their prey. They want to get the job done any way possible. And that's the one thing you just see in those guys is that determination.
I'm glad to hear that because it takes a good mixture of the two things. And you got to make sure that everybody's able to go out and execute what they need to execute. What is that going to look like? Well, Andy's not going to give you a lot, but we're going to tell you what it needs to look like coming up next. Looking for tickets for the big event, maybe even last-minute tickets for this big game, whether it's a concert or comedy show or anything else, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. With Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. Game Time Picks, it does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals. You don't have to waste time searching for endless ticket listings. It's very, very simple. They grab you the deals. They put them in front of you. I grabbed a super deal, and it got me a prime seat on the last event I went to, and I couldn't have gotten a better steal. The best part is you don't have to. You're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. You could find a better deal somewhere else. They'll give you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something does come up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, that's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off right now. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Folks, you can check out Matt and all his work at ChiefsDigest.com and Chiefs Digest here on the YouTube platform. Make sure that you check us out as well. Chris over on KC Chiefs Corner, myself on NFL33.com for a look outside of Chiefs Kingdom, as well as RGR Football for a deep look inside of it, including some game film that I think you guys will find pretty interesting. So check out those alternate sites to go with this podcast. Matt, Andy Reid is not going to be a guy that is terribly forthcoming. He says things in a nice way, in a grandfatherly way, but doesn't give a whole lot of information away. A couple of things struck me about his media appearance, and then I want to get what your takeaways. But one thing that I don't think we talk about enough, and he only slightly mentioned it in the beginning in reference to a different question. But part of what goes into getting to this point is not just what the staff cooks up on the scheme they build and how the players execute. It's how the players hold each other accountable as well. And he made just a slight side comment about he's got a very good locker room. And there's veteran leadership in there. And there's a nice mix, again, of youth and guys that are towards the end of their career that are really pushing for it. Is there, in your opinion, a difference here this year with this locker room and this group of veterans and this group of rookies that maybe sets them apart from years past, other champions of years past?
I think there is. I mean, and once again, this team, its chemistry the last 5 years, it has been remarkable. I mean, it really has been. I mean, they put together a team where there's no eyes. There's nobody on this team that's only worried about their own individual statistics, and that's different. I mean, hey, in the last decade, Chiefs have had some guys who are probably in that category. They're not on this team, and so I think that makes it stand out. This group right now, there's a quiet confidence about that I just don't know that I've seen in some of the past Super Bowls. And it goes from the coach staff down through the players. You're not going to hear the bravado at the podiums or in any of the interviews that you're going to hear this week. But, off camera, off microphone. And once again, there's not a braggadocious element to it. It's just that, this team says we're ready. We've got the game plan in place. I think the confidence and the quiet confidence that you've seen from Andy Reid over the last week underlines that. I think this team feels like this is a good matchup for them. I think that they found some things offensively they think will work. They have some ideas about how to slow down Saquon Barkley and honestly put the game into the hands of Jalen Hurts. I think that's what they want to do. And if they can do that, if they can move the football and they can move the focus from Saquon to Jalen, I think they feel like this is a matchup that they can win, and they're pretty confident they can do it.
Do you expect that to take the form of anything different, anything outlandish to try, particularly to take advantage of the O-line situation the Eagles are facing? Is it a different front? Is it being a little bit more game friendly in terms of D-line games, stunts, etc.? What would you expect might be a good way for them to add to this game plan?
Yeah, the three players that I think are the most interesting to watch how the Chiefs kind of utilize them in this game, it's Jamari, Jaden, Hicks, the Chiefs have different looks that they can go to, and increasingly over the last really 4 or 5 games, they've gone to a lineup where they favor more safeties. I think that they feel like that's a flexible lineup that gives them, a lot of different opportunities. I mean, we've also seen them, as far as maybe sometimes playing even, 2-3 cover on the back end. That playing through, 6 defensive backs gives you that flexibility. But here's the thing, is that the Chiefs feel like that they can still run with 6 defensive backs on the field because Jaden Hicks is a tackler. Jamari Connor is tough in the slot. Even Jalen Watson, with the injury status, but Trent McDuffie, I mean, those are hard physical corners that support the run defense. So, that's the thing, is that that the Eagles, especially based on what you've seen in the last couple of games and with the injuries on the offensive line, they've been favoring going to the outside. And one of the best ways to be able to run the football outside is if you're going to go up against a team that, quite honestly, is soft at the defensive back level. If the corners don't tackle, that's where I think that the Chiefs feel like they have their advantage. And it's just, where, do they think that the Eagles are going to try to attack them with Saquon? Are they going to try and go up the middle? Are they going to try and go tackle? Are they going to go out wide? I think the Chiefs are ready for any single one of them, but I feel like if they tried to run up the middle with offensive line and Chris Jones and what the Chiefs can do defensively against the run, I think that's a great match for the Chiefs.
2 things. Am I wrong in thinking that Mike Pennell plays maybe a bigger role in this game than he has in some this season? And 2, how do you flip it, and how do you expect them to attack the Chiefs offense?
Yeah, I think you're right. And, and that fits into the puzzle too about, how will the Chiefs go about this? Will they go with more like they typically are going to take a linebacker off for an extra defensive back, but we've also been seeing a lot of maybe even 3-2-6 alignments, and you can do that if you got Mike Pennell in the middle, playing especially in run defense and on early downs. I mean, the Chiefs are going to go to 5 or 6 defensive backs a lot of times in 3rd and long situations. They're going to let their 4 defensive ends, pass rushers. I'll include Chris Jones in that too, because on 3rd down, he's an edge rusher, pass rusher. They've got that look to them. But I think that, Pennell is an important part of that run defense. If Pennell can help up in the run game and force Barkley to the outside. So then you've got other guys that can, pursue and bring him down. I mean, that's the ideal. If you can match up, with two guys on three in that interior and control the space, I think what, Steve Spagnuolo is what I want to try and do.
I think that makes perfect sense as I try to snuff a sneeze here. The one thing that we don't talk about enough is that they have a myriad of options here. Do you expect any lineup changes on any side of the ball that we maybe haven't seen? Do they have a curveball waiting for the Eagles in just who's on the field?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing might be in just some of the usage. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a game where all of a sudden you see, 40 snaps for DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I think that he's got his role. That's what he's going to play. I think rotation at receiver is what we've seen in the playoffs is going to be pretty consistent. No changes on the offensive line. I mean, Joe Tua's going to play left tackle. No, that conversation is closed. So unless there's an injury of any sort, we're going to see the same offensive line that we've seen. And defensively, I mean, Chiefs don't have any injuries there either. So your only really question, I think, is this 2-week break and enough to give Watson a chance to up the even a little bit more. And if he can, then it obviously means less time for Ozzie Johnson. But I think that's kind of where the Chiefs are kind of hoping to go in this game. So I don't think there's going to be any surprises. The only surprises that I think that this staff has probably got cooked up to be just the scheme and personnel and looks, because that Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, Spagnuolo, they're going to have some unscouted looks showing the Eagles that they have not seen on film.
And that is the whole point to get to this point in the season. What does that scenario look like? What works? What doesn't? How do they get to the point of a championship? And what does Matt think actually happens? That's coming up next. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to get even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place to do daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions of winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get into the action. All you have to do is pick more or less than the players' projections, at least 2 players. You do that, and if you do it right, you can get up to 1,000 times your cash right now. Prize Picks has a free pick going for Patrick Mahomes. Right now, he just has to throw 1 yard in this Super Bowl. Pair that with 1 more correct pick, and you're cashing out. If you want to do fast, safe withdrawals, it's easy. When I win, I can take my cash out, get it to my account in 15 minutes. Plus, the promos, they give you everything you need to get that super sweet Millie Winners game lineups. Those are on tap right now, and you can tail up to a lineup of 3 for 3, and you can split $1 million in promo funds. Download the app right now today and get that code Locked On NFL in there. You'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On NFL is the code to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Run your game. We are getting ready for the biggest game in possibly Chiefs history to make league history. Don't miss a second of it over at ChiefsDigest.com. Here on Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can get podcasts on any team, any day, in every sport. Maybe you check out the Eagles as well. Tomorrow, we will be talking to the Eagles show. We're going to get that inside information for you before we break it down for you on Friday and give you our preview. But what we want to do now is take a look at, if everything falls right, if all the tarot cards in New Orleans line up correctly for the Kansas City Chiefs, Matt, what does this game look like? How does it start? We've seen a great 15 script here recently that I think really is the key to getting out in front and getting off to a great start. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, the one thing you always worry about in a Super Bowl game and in these big games, and we haven't seen it as much, I don't think. We certainly didn't see it last week, but it's the overhyped, Patrick Mahomes, overamped. He comes out with just a little bit too much sizzle on the football. And, we saw that a little bit less against the 49ers last year. I mean, let's face it, it's the reason why this team oftentimes falls down by 10 in Super Bowls. It's just that Mahomes is off a little tick because so juiced at the beginning of the game. If they can avoid that, I mean, especially if this team can put up together an early drive, that's a bad sign for the Eagles. I mean, the Chiefs, if they can jump out early, playing from in front, that's a great scenario for them. I mean, I think this offense is able to move the football. I don't think that there's any problems with that. And like I said, I think that, one of their strategies is certainly going to be to put the ball into the hands of Jalen Hurts, because if they can slow down Saquon Barkley and get the Eagles off their rhythm, get them behind, force them to throw the football. Hey, is there a danger that Jalen Hurts has the second best game of his career? He had the best game of his career 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, and it wasn't good enough. This is a different version of Jalen Hurts. I'm not completely convinced that he's 1% healthy. Their passing offense has not been what it was this year. I mean, it's not been as productive. Certainly, leaning on Saquon makes a possibility, but it just hasn't been as efficient and as strong as it was 2 years ago. So, if the Chiefs are able to control that offensive line, put the ball in the hand, put the game in the hands of Hurts, they can go after him, because once again, I mean, that's I think the key to how can the Chiefs win the turnover battle, because Mahomes can't turn over the football. They need to be able to force the Eagles. I mean, I think that the Chiefs can win a game where there's no turnovers, but it's going to be very difficult for them to win a game where they're in the negative. So that's the thing you got to do, is just try and force some turnovers and some negative plays for the Eagles. Like I said, I truly think that the Chiefs can move up and down on the field on this. I think they're going to put up points. The question to me is going to be, do the Chiefs, once again, let an opponent hang around? If the Chiefs let an opponent hang around, I'm going with that as the safe alternative and the safe scenario. I'm going with the Chiefs 37-31. That's kind of my official prediction. I mean, we'll see if anything else changes in the week, but that's where I'm kind of sitting right now. I mean, if this game turns into a blowout, I mean, I think the Chiefs win. I think the Eagles are winning a blowout, but if it turns out that way, I mean, that's because I think that the Chiefs are moving the football effectively. They've stopped Saquon, and they're forcing turnovers.
Makes perfect sense. I'm rooting for an 85 Bears type performance myself, so let's see what happens. Your prediction, I think, really rings true should it go correctly. What's the panic button? If this happens, we should get nervous while we're watching this ball game. What's the number one constraint for you?
I mean, you can't really count this team out anytime that they fall behind. So, I mean, even if the Chiefs, were to have a disaster, be down by 17 in the first half, would that be the end of the game? I mean, no. I mean, to me, it's you got to get after halftime. You got to see where this game is. So, to me, if the Chiefs are, I'm not counting of any game down 14 in the third quarter. 17 might be the tipping point. And that's how do the Chiefs get there? I think they get there because they're not being careful with the football. They're creating turnovers, and Saquon is just running all over the place. If that happens, play out. I mean, it may be just one of those days where you tip the hat to the Eagles and say congratulations. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's the way, is that the Chiefs are un-Chiefs-like, because I think it's because they made a lot of mistakes and they're not stopping Saquon.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Last question, a pair of them. If everything goes according to plan, Chiefs are watching the red and gold confetti at the end. Who's the MVP, and who's the guy that we talk about right after the MVP that maybe should have been it for this team?
Well, okay, let's say Patrick Mahomes off the table, because that's the guy that always wins Super Bowl MVP. Right. If the Chiefs win this game and Patrick not the Super Bowl MVP, my sleeper pick is Kareem Hunt. I think that's the guy that the Chiefs are going to feed. I mean, this is now or never kind of for Kareem Hunt. He's been waiting for this his entire life. I've not seen anybody more determined, I don't think, last month. Hunt. He can taste this. You can just tell. There's an edge to him that I just didn't see the first time around, and I don't even think really saw in the beginning of his second tenure here with the Chiefs. He wants this bad, and I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, you look at it, the Chiefs have just been so much better when Kareem Hunt is on the field and when he's getting the football. Hey, the Chiefs get some red zone situations. It could very easily all of a sudden Kareem pile up 2 or 3 touchdowns. Not necessarily guaranteed to happen, because this Chiefs offense, anybody can get the score. But I could certainly, Kareem gets the hot hand. He ends up with 80, 100 yards, a couple of scores, and he's the guy.
Wow, that could very well be it, folks. You heard it from Matt himself. We'd like to know your predictions. Put those down below in the comments. Hit Matt at ChiefsDigest.com and Matt Derrick on X as well. And you'll get my prediction along with Chris's on Friday. We'll run it all down, do our game preview. I'll probably give you a couple other hints of what to watch as well. Matt, thank you for your insight, for doing all the dirty work down in the Big Easy. And try to keep yourself out of trouble before game time. It'll be a good thing.
We got a lot of time before game time on Sunday, Ryan. So I make no guarantees.
Okay. Well, we'll try to check in with you again then. And we will have Matt post-game at some point. We won't know the celebration time, so just take it easy, folks, and be with us. Matt, have a great time in New Orleans. Thanks for being with us. Folks, thank you for always being with us. We will have more for you tomorrow as we get behind the curtain of what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles and maybe a little bit of revenge game for some fans against one particular Eagles coach. We're going to go through it all. We're going to have it for you, and then we will preview on Friday. Don't miss a beat of it. It's going to be a great time. Get ready. It's Super Bowl 59, and it is right around the corner.